So Anissa was born on Viltrum and is thousands of years old. She was one of the many warriors who would witness Thrag's rise to Grand Regent of the Viltrum Empire. She first appeared when Mark Grayson and Debbie Grayson were in the middle of lunch. Anissa interrupted them to get Mark's attention. She threatened to kill Mark's mother so that he would give chase into the sky, where she aimed to convince him to aid in the Viltrumite takeover. After apologizing for baiting him, she spoke of how the Viltrumites would turn Earth into a utopia for centuries and rid the planet of disease, war, and death. Worried, Mark asked what would happen to Earth in the aftermath, and Anissa spoke of its eventual destruction. Their conversation was then cut short by Cecil Stedman, who informed Mark of a monster attack on a cruise ship in need of saving. Hoping to convince Mark to help towards her goal, Anissa offered her assistance, and by ramming into the beast's head, she slew the monster with ease. After, she and Mark helped the passengers and moved the cruise ship onto an island. Mark, exhausted by the whole ordeal, sat down for a breather as Anissa stood by, commending his efforts before asking him one last time if he would be willing to come to the Viltrumites' aid. Mark refused, and Anissa lost her patience. With a light warning filled with attacks, she reminded Mark that he didn't have a choice in the matter, assuring him that he had no idea how much danger he was in. She then informed him that another agent would come to check on his progress in either 5 months or 5 years. Upon leaving, she desperately hoped Mark would come to realize the peril of his situation before that day would arrive. General Craig soon met Anissa in the Viltrumite warship as she reported that she was unsuccessful in her attempts to sway Mark to their cause. However, she did reassure Craig that it was only a matter of time before he would come to their side. Later, Anissa spotted Alan on his flight back to Taliskria and set off to intercept. She engaged him in combat. While she was initially shocked at his newfound strength, she still managed to beat him and subsequently hauled him off to prison. Later, Anissa is seen in Taliskria attacking the Coalition of Planets headquarters. Afterward, she grabbed the tech jacket. She attempts to kill him by bear-hugging him, but was attacked by Thetis, and she releases him. She grabbed Thaddeus and tech jacket, but was attacked by Nolan. Enraged, she attacked him, calling him a disgrace due to his traitorous status. She later attacked Alan after the Viltrumite warship was destroyed by Mark and Oliver. Soon, she retreats with Thrag and other Viltrumites to Viltrum. There, she and other Viltrumites prepared themselves for the Coalition to attack. When the Coalition of Planet Warriors arrived, she launched into Thaddeus and suppressed him with a neck hold. She was later distracted by finding that Mark had killed Conquest and was attacked by Omni-Man. Distracted by the battle between the two sides, she was later seen when Invincible, Thaddeus, and Omni-Man flew through Viltrum, successfully destroying the planet. She survived the explosion of the planet and later moved to attack Alan along with Craig and other Viltrumites. Space Racer fired a beam from his gun, distracting her with the death of a fellow Viltrumite, and Alan managed to escape with Spacer Racer. After Thrag beats Nolan and Mark to the brink of death, she was seen fleeing with him and other Viltrumites after Thrag decides to spare them. The Viltrumites went to Earth and were secretly living among humans in order to replenish their population. Anissa is seen sitting on a bench, aggravated by the two men flirting with her. Later, Anissa, Craig, and Lucan are in the Viltrumite moon base and are being reprimanded by Thrag. He reminded the trio of the reasons why the Viltrumites had come to Earth, to interbreed with humans. Thrag goes on to say that their behavior is unacceptable, citing Anissa's refusal to procreate with humans. Anissa retorted by stating that she never wanted to produce offspring and that it wasn't as simple as what the men were doing. Craig and Lucan explain their stories, much to Thrag and Anissa's disgust. Thrag demands that they leave. Later, she was seen on the moon after Thrag attempted to kill Nolan. She was accompanied by Craig, Thula, and Lucan. Craig stopped Thrag's attack on Nolan. Baffled by this, he asked Craig to explain himself. Thrag lied and said that Nolan was attempting to kill him. Thrag tells him that Nolan is the son of Argol and that he is too weak to lead. So Anissa and the other Viltrumites turn on him and attempt to kill Thrag. Nolan then asks that they stop and spare him. They bowed to Nolan as he had been chosen to be the emperor of the Viltrum Empire. She and other Viltrumites attended Nolan's inauguration ceremony on the warship. She is later watching Nolan and his son arm wrestle. Later, she aided the Guardians of the Globe's battle against Dr. Seismic. She flew through a magmamite monster summoned by Dr. Seismic, similar to what she did when she arrived on Earth. Mark, shocked at this, flew up to the sky to find out who did it. There, she revealed that she had slain the beast. Mark asks what her motives were, citing that he saw her watching him and his father arm wrestle. She rebuffed him and said that she, watching Mark, not Nolan. She kissed him, much to Mark's surprise and dismay. She then flew off, hoping to see him again. Later, Anissa would find Mark and see him for the first time in 6 months after he was trapped in another dimension. She asked him where he had been. Before Mark could speak and finish his statement, she stopped him by telling him about the Viltrumite mission of procreating with humans and how she wasn't performing on her end. Mark attempts to leave, but Anissa stops him. She began to tell him about her refusal to mate with humans. She told him that even though he was young and weak, she'd settle on mating with him because of his Viltrumite heritage. Mark refused her and flew off, citing that he was still with Eve. Anissa attacks him to stop his flight. Mark asks her to leave him alone, saying that he doesn't want to fight. She retorted that she didn't want to fight either, but she couldn't stall the mission, citing that Nolan may not be as forceful as Thrag, but the mission remained active. She attempts to seduce Mark, but he refuses. She loses her patience and headbutted Mark. Seeing that seducing him won't work, Anissa realizes now that she must force herself onto Mark. Mark asks her to leave him be, but she refuses and charges. Mark lightly fought her off, hoping that she would leave him be. Anissa wasn't swayed, but rather enjoyed the battle. She caught Mark's punch, noticing that he was stronger than before. She used her superior strength to overpower him, and the duo crashed on an unknown farm, with her laying on top of Mark. She pushed back his arms and demanded that he stop resisting her. Mark refuses to give up and emphasizes his refusal. She continues her assault with her elbow at his neck. Anissa reaches for Mark's genitals, with Mark still attempting to push her off. She tore off their costume and proceeds to rape him. While Mark watches in horror, Anissa is aroused. Traumatized, Mark begins to cry. Anissa tells him to man up, implying she will try again. She then flies off, leaving a traumatized Mark to reflect. Later, Anissa saves a near-death monster girl from suffocating in space. Anissa reports to Nolan about Monster Girl being close to death when she was found. She also reported that the area where one of Robot's drones was located and the Viltrumites were awaiting his order. Mark, remembering what she had done, started to shake at the sight of her. While another Viltrumite approached Nolan, she used the opportunity to whisper, "Missed you," to Mark, much to his disgust. Later, Anissa left with Nolan and the other Viltrumites to confront the drone. Robot, who only wished to talk, asked about Monster Girl's condition as she was thrown into space. Nolan stated that she was stable. Robot discussed a plan to work together with the Viltrumites, knowing their mission to crossbreed with humans. After long deliberation, Robot and Nolan came to an agreement on their terms. Mark flew to the drone, attacking it and surprising the Viltrumites. Anissa attempted to help Mark up, but Mark slapped her hand away in anger. The battle between Robot's drone and Mark was stopped by Nolan talking with Mark. A day later, she runs into Mark on the warship, much to his anger. He grabs her throat and slams her into a wall, demanding that she back off. Nolan shouted for Mark, but Mark told him to stay out of it. Anissa grinned and proceeded to tell how Mark's aggression aroused her and made her want to repeat their prior incident. Mark lets her go out of shock and leaves with Nolan, and she smiles as they leave. A couple of months after Mark had left Earth, Anissa gave birth to Mark's son, Marky. Sometimes between those times, Anissa would marry a man named Scott and have a daughter born. After hearing Mark is back on Earth after 5 years of disappearance, she rushes to the Viltrumite warship and Eve attacks her. Nolan and Mark stop the fight, and Nolan grabs her by the neck after Eve suggests that something happened between Mark and her. Mark defends her by lying, and Anissa is asked to leave. So she flies back to see her husband and 2 children. Anissa talks to her husband, and she is glad that her husband helped her become a better person and regrets what she did in the past, especially to Mark Grayson. She gets a call from Nolan Grayson, and she meets with her fellow Viltrumites Craig and Lucan to prepare to defend Earth, since Anissa actually cares for Earth now. Unknown to Anissa, Mark tells Nolan that Anissa raped him, but Nolan gets over it, saying Anissa had changed over the last 5 years. During the final battle, Anissa fights against Thrag's children and saves Eve from being killed by a Ragnar, but she is cut open in the process by that Ragnar. Eve tries to save her, but Anissa's wounds are too severe. Anissa tells Eve that she was sorry that she raped Mark, but she did not regret it because she gave birth to Marky. Eve still puts Anissa in a bubble, but Anissa succumbs to her wounds and dies. Her death is confirmed by Alan, and after her death, Mark goes to meet her husband and also meets his son. Initially, Mark refused to accept Marky as his son, but he understood that Marky needed him. So Mark talked out things with Marky and also forgave Anissa for what she did. So yeah, that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.